Alright, so what does Victor think about politics this wonderfully warm February?
It's time to make America great again.
Uh-huh.
Trump has been victorious in New Hampshire.
Uh-huh.
And
Mhm.
also, John Kasich has come in second.
Yes, well, that was somewhat surprising, although it basically was his best shot at actually placing, at least early on, other than Ohio, if he lasts that long.
Oh, look, his debate performance in last night's, well, not last night's, but the weekend debate was really good, and he's finally gotten the dividends from it, as well as at least has shown that when he actually has the chance to speak at the debate, he can really get things moving.
I'm not entirely sure the debate is the reason why he did this well. He put in some actual effort, actually showed up and talked to people. New Hampshire is a very small state, and that actually matters. Also, they know him there.
That's true, but still, in the polling coming up to this, he was like still polling about third or fourth. It's really the debate that helped kick things off.
Um, okay.
No, I mean, he is a bit of a wash of sanity in the Republican field. And it looks like I would say that Rubio's chances might be done.
Yeah, I think you're a bit out there on that.
Why am I a bit out there on that?
He finished in the top four candidates, and the debates haven't had that big an impact on things.
This debate had a pretty big impact. Rubio was coming in second in the states in the polls up until the Rubio incident happened, and then he dropped.
Well, actually, the latest poll had dropped him even with Cruz before the debate.
All right, but still, his path to victory involved booting Jeb Bush out of the race in New Hampshire and South Carolina.
Now, that is a problem for him, and that Jeb Bush now has done well enough that he will probably stick in, at least for a while longer. No, the mainstream Republican candidates, as in Bush, Rubio, and even Christie, finishing relatively close to each other, means they all may believe they have a shot coming up and stay in to split the vote.
Yeah, and that's not what either of them needed. He needed to knock out the other two.
But we've got South Carolina and Super Tuesday for that.
Yeah, that's true, but that might come rather late for them. Wait, it's not the campaign they were envisioning, even in this late stage. And once again, they're going to have to spend more time fighting each other than actually trying to dethrone Donald Trump. And now they're going to have to start attacking and dealing with Kasich as opposed to their previous strategy of ignoring him.
No, I'm pretty sure they will continue to ignore him, which gives them a small chance of actually doing better than expected in South Carolina. No, they're going to hit each other again, and Rubio has to rethink his message. You have to remember, Rubio is a relatively young and inexperienced politician, and his I'm going to concentrate on our enemies, try and be upbeat and positive message had so far up until this last debate worked very well for him.
Oh yeah, and really, I don't think personally his Robo Rubio moment, where he was keeping repeating the same talking point over and over again, was actually that bad. Just a lot of comedians and people decided to make it into something that bad.
Yes, well, there's a reason why most of the comedians decided to do that. He was, up until this result, considered the biggest threat to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
So he got on, he was the new target.
Yep. And in my
Yep.
opinion, they did a pretty good job of doing a hatchet job on him.
Well, yeah, but that'll happen no matter what. I mean, it's just that they had, everybody had been relieved when Trump had lost Iowa and been stumped. And they thought now they could concentrate on fighting the true enemy. And Rubio looked to be the top of the true enemy list. Now they're probably going to have to start worrying about Trump again.
And they're going to have to decide between Hillary and Bernie.
Oh, that's already been decided.
Oh, I know it's been decided. Bernie does not have a legitimate chance in hell, and a lot of this is for show. However, a bunch of them people are having to decide between a very vocal hard left and Team Hillary Clinton. Like, the whole feminist community is still dealing with the implications of the "you have to vote for Hillary Clinton" commanded Madeleine Albright.
No. You don't have to. You just go to hell if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
A special place in hell.
Implied to be the place for traitors, might I just say. The lowest pit of hell.
Well, we don't know if she's read the Divine Comedy.
Still, a special place in hell.
Yeah, but look, no, the leftish side of the media and most of the mainstream left-wing pundit and figures have already been stumping hard for Hillary. And if you noticed how they treated Sanders in most of the debates, it was quite obvious that, as far as they were concerned, Sanders was there to, give Hillary somebody to run against.
Well, yes. Now, that is true, but they are effectively alienating a portion of the hard left they're used to sucking up to.
Well, this pretty much always happens in the Democratic primaries. But yes, I mean, they're with the various social justice and other movements on campus and other locations. There's been a very big revival of the sort of neo-Marxist left, and they have, at least a portion of them have a tendency to want to vote for Sanders, and they're going to be somewhat upset when they realize that other people that they normally would agree with don't agree with them on this.
Mm-hmm. That, and a lot of this is not helping Hillary Clinton in the long run. Like, she is giving the Republicans a good amount of material to hit her with after their deal is done, from her mass support from the banks of Wall Street to, well, this insane comment by Madeleine Albright about how they need women to support her.
No, the campaign is somewhat distanced itself from the "women are going to hell if they don't support Hillary" comment.
Yeah, somewhat. But even then, Hillary Clinton's campaign against an opponent they should and will easily defeat is being far more vicious than it should be.
Well, Hillary's never been particularly good with competition. And, there always is that chance that, something really embarrassing will come out about her and Sanders will actually have a shot.
Yeah, but by her being this vicious, she might not be giving Sanders a shot. However, she's definitely alienating a portion of the Democratic base and also giving the Republicans ammunition. Like, usually when something like this happens, the Democrats don't usually alienate their opponent and attack them this viciously.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Depends who and when.
Howard Dean.
Yeah, they attack Dean pretty viciously.
No,
However,
this is hardcore politics. This isn't softball. This isn't everybody plays nice. In fact, in many ways, this has been one of the nicest Democratic primary battles I've seen for a long time. They actually, at least in public and in the debates, have gone out of their way to be nice to each other.
all right. All right.
No, and I don't think Hillary's damaging herself too much. It's hard for the Republicans to attack her over contact with the banks, unless they were Rand Paul and he's dropped out. And I mean, the other stuff is, I think she'd have a little more problem with some of the comments she's made on some of the talk shows about feminism, but even they were relatively generic, and feminism is mostly a good thing. It's only the people currently sometimes using it as a cudgel who have given it a bad name.
All right. Well, then, who do you think is going to win the Republican primaries?
Republican primaries?
Yeah.
At this point, it's probably still Rubio.
Yeah, no, I think Rubio's campaign is blown a bit too much.
Why?
Well, because the whole Robo incident is hitting him pretty hard, and he hasn't been able to recover from it. In my opinion, you're right. There's no national poll to back that up yet.
One incident of being made fun of by late night talk shows, they're all going to have to go through that.
Yeah,
That's how he recovers from it. I mean, they have a debate coming up on the 13th.
Okay.
And yeah, if he has completely blown it and lost his confidence, then yeah, he has a problem.
Yeah, you might remember the Howard Dean moment. Admittedly, they played it a lot more than with Howard Dean. But the thing that killed his campaign was his scream, which apparently never checked for sure, was taken out of context to show that he was a crazy man.
Well, it was sort of a yell of enthusiasm to gin up the crowd after a speech, which went over relatively well. But this doesn't seem anything like that. He just repeated the same message over and over again, which all of the candidates have done on debates when they haven't wanted to particularly deal with an issue.
All right, but in my opinion, it's hurt him pretty badly. He wasn't exactly the favorite candidate either. And the longer him, Jeb, and Christie have to fight each other, the more it's going to ruin all of their chances.
It'll give more delegates to Trump because they can't come together, but eventually two of them are going to be pushed out.
Yes, it's just a matter of when they're going to be pushed out.
Well, if one of them does incredibly badly in South Carolina, that will possibly drop one of them. Most likely Christie, unless he does well. And Super Tuesday will probably push out the other one.
No. Probably, but I'm thinking actually by the time Super Tuesday comes, it might be a little bit late. If I had to actually bet money, I'm
Late for what? This is the event.
well, late to change people's minds. Look, the Republicans have kind of a tradition in their minds that they do basically rally behind one candidate after a while. And a lot of these campaigns also no longer have that much money. There's rumors or very loud squawks that Jeb Bush has effectively run out of money aside from his super PAC. Rubio
His official
is
campaign has been burning money.
Yeah. Rubio is not doing that well at the moment in terms of finances, and neither is Christie. Ted Cruz is doing pretty well in money, but that will be able to carry him through the Super Tuesday and things. But his path to victory is also trying to end things by a little bit past Super Tuesday. After he gets past the Super Tuesday in the southern states, his amount of possible delegates drops dramatically.
Well, Cruz needs to put in a at least second place and substantial one at that in South Carolina. And then, yes, he can then go into Super Tuesday and pick up the evangelical vote.
Yes, but past that, his campaign darkens and he needs to do really, really, really well and knock some of the other people out, which also isn't happening for him. Donald Trump,
Actually, he wants most of them to stay in because he has the evangelical vote. He
no,
wants the mainstream Republican vote to be split.
he needs Carson to drop and he needs Trump to drop.
All right, yes.
Desperately needs them to drop. If they had dropped, he'd be winning by now. But Carson, largely out of spite, is sticking in the race. And so is Trump. And Trump has barely spent any money.
Well, Trump isn't going to drop until he's actually losing. And it doesn't look like he's going to start losing anytime soon.
Yes. No.
Carson, on the other hand, is more of a random situation, but he did incredibly poorly in New Hampshire. Mind you, that wasn't terribly surprising.
That's true. But he looks like he's going to keep in things and is still going to siphon votes away from Ted Cruz. And Donald Trump is effectively siphoning votes from Ted Cruz.
I'm not sure if he did that in New Hampshire, but he might do that in South Carolina.
Well, still, Trump supporters, at least about half of them, would probably switch their vote at this point to Cruz.
Actually, about half of Trump supporters probably wouldn't switch their vote to anyone.
No, I think you're thinking of the other half of Trump supporters. Half of that vote will just disappear. The other half will probably go to Cruz.
Possibly.
Just as if Cruz implodes, a good portion of that vote, half of it will probably not bother to vote anymore, vote for other candidates, but the other half will go to Trump.
I don't think you're right there at all. The evangelical voters who aren't voting for Trump now don't like him. And there's a reason they don't like him.
Because he's the Lord of Decadence?
Well, he's quite possibly not even a Christian. He's definitely not a practicing Christian. And he's definitely not an evangelical.
Either way, Cruz needs Carson and Trump to drop if he has any chance of being triumphant.
Actually, he did really well in New Hampshire. Much better than people expected him to do in New Hampshire.
Not good enough for him to become the Republican nominee at this point, or at
Well,
least,
no, but New Hampshire was supposed to be pretty much his worst state.
yeah, but still, this is the point I'm getting to. He also is having a similar problem of Rubio, Jeb, and Christie. He is effectively dividing the vote that should be uniting behind him between Trump and Carson.
Well, we'll see if Carson gets any votes in South Carolina, because that's where it's going to count.
Probably will. And we'll see what minor effects Carla Fiona finally dropping from this, which she should drop relatively soon, is going to have on things. But no, if I was going to put money down, I'd say first I would say this is the best case scenario for Donald Trump winning this. Followed by, actually, I think the possibility is there. If Kasich can get the organization together for a Kasich breakout.
He can't get the organization together. It's way too late to get an organization together. He has the organization he has, and he has to run with it. One thing he's going to possibly be getting is a fair bit more money and press attention over the next few weeks.
Yeah, which is what he needs. And by organization, he needs to get some more volunteers and some more support and some more attention, and probably in a couple of more campaign people. But
I don't think any of the people who are basically around 1% or less in the polls are going to matter as they drop out. Carly Fiorina is, sadly for her, a non-factor.
True, but still, each of these candidates will be desperate to get even that 1% right now. And the more of them that drop up, the more the attention is going to be dealt. But ultimately, what matters is who's going to drop first, Jeb, Bush, or Rubio, as well as who's going to drop in terms of Trump, Cruz, and Carson.
Well, I think the upcoming debate, followed by the South Carolina primary, are pretty much going to set the stage for who's going to drop. Mind you, at this point, it has effectively become a 5-person race. Any of the others who don't drop aren't really going to matter. And hopefully that'll lead to better debates.
Well, I'd say a 6-person debate. You have to. It's Trump, Cruz, to a certain extent, Kasich, Rubio, Christie, and Bush.
Okay. I mean, yes, Kasich will be in there.
Well, remember, Kasich does have a bunch of advantages now from his New Hampshire bump. A lot of Republican voters have not been really introduced to Kasich yet, and he now gets to do this introduction when they're not sure if they should unite behind Trump or one of the other candidates, right? He's going to get his money, and he's going to get a bunch more airtime in this coming debate.
Look, you've got half the Republican voters who are not going to unite under Trump no matter what. Their only problem is figuring out which one of the other ones is actually a functional politician they can actually back.
And there's a possibility they might decide to unite under Kasich.
Well, he's the best policy choice, and he's been an effective leader in both Congress and in Ohio. He has a huge charisma deficit, which means people will be really reluctant to back him. It's possible, but I think the chances... No, just at all.
Yeah, he was pretty good in that debate.
Yeah?
If he can keep putting up performances like that, he has a shot of winning.
Everything I've experienced about politics, not just in America but elsewhere, says that's a really long shot, even if he continues to do well in the debates.
It would be a long shot if Rubio, Trump, or Christie had two of them had dropped out and the establishment was uniting behind a single champion, you could say.
But they will do that anyway.
Not for a while. Until they do, Kasich has a bit of a chance. He has the best window he could possibly have right now for a breakout.
Yeah, no, he's got his window. It's just as a political figure, all he brings to the table is competence and intelligence.
Yes.
And competence and intelligence almost never win a political race.
Well, this is a very odd race. So, who knows? It might go somewhere.
I really hope it does, but I really doubt it will.
Well, here's a question. If Kasich won, do you think he'd make a really good president?
Went all the way and actually beat Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
I think out of all the candidates, he's the one most likely to run an effective presidency. He's the one most likely to be able to cooperate with might possibly be a Democratic Senate and actually get things done. And even if it isn't, he's the one who actually understands issues, has dealt with tax issues, has dealt with healthcare issues, has dealt with foreign policy issues, has a reasonably good understanding of all of them, and will actually try and get legislation done rather than talking about it in the hope that something good will happen. No, as I say, he has been a very competent congressman and governor. He has, he's not been spectacular. He's not been charismatic, but he has got things done. He cares about the budget. He cares about foreign affairs. He cares about actually doing things. He is almost certainly, if this was more of a parliamentary system, probably would be the Republican candidate to be prime minister, but it isn't. And he is too much of the Jewish grandfather scolding people for their bad behaviors and whining when people aren't paying attention to him.
All right. Well, still, I think now.
Also, he's short. And height matters a lot in presidential politics.
Well, you know, he has managed to become governor of Ohio. He can't be completely politically incompetent. I think if people can actually hear what he has to say, he has a better shot than you're giving him credit to, at least in this environment. I wouldn't be saying this if, again, the three sort of establishment candidates were united and were basically gone at this point.
Okay, well, the fact is the three establishment candidates each have a huge problem. Chris Christie's problem is that, well, in the South, he's a New Jersey governor, and he's very New Jersey. The problem is, around New Jersey, he's well known for being, well, quite frankly, an asshole.
A sociopathic asshole that has people die in petty vendettas where he closes down bridges.
Well, I don't believe he's ever been accused of having them die. He's just been accused of being a huge asshole and having petty vendettas. Even if those vendettas were his staff's vendettas, he effectively has backed his staff in having stupid vendettas, and there's a good chance they were his vendettas. So he's a bit damaged. He actually presents relatively well, even though he's not the handsomest man. He gives off a powerful persona, which makes people interested in what he has to say. He just has a horrible reputation. Bush, on the other hand, for being a very successful governor, is not that great a public speaker, doesn't present himself too well, is a bit tone deaf when people aren't receiving his message well. He doesn't seem to pick up on it. And has burned through an enormous amount of money
Yeah,
with little
basically,
results.
yeah, something like $1,000 per vote in Iowa and some other stupid sum in New Hampshire.
And his other problem is he's a Bush. And being a Bush is not particularly positive for anyone at this point. Now, Rubio's main problem is just that he is young and relatively inexperienced and has been cold on his shit during a debate and didn't handle it particularly well. But one bad debate performance isn't a killer as long as he can come back in the next one. He needs to go back to his debate coaches, retrain a bit. I mean, he has shown in the past an ability to basically speak on his feet. I think he's just got some bad advice that he had to stick to that point. He had to avoid attacking on areas where it wouldn't particularly help him theoretically, but once you get past a certain point, you have to actually respond.
Hmm.
And he needs to get back on the horse, not have his confidence shattered, and come up with some new lines and a little more thinking on his feet.
Right.
Because he's done that in previous debates. He actually has thought on his feet and done lines other than America is great, I want to help America be great. So but he is young. He's sort of, in some ways, the Barack Obama of the Republican field, as in younger, pre-presidential Barack Obama. And he needs to show that he can handle it, that he can take a hit and he can come back on it. So they all have something they need to change and work on. And during that time, if they don't effectively do it, then yes, Kasich has his shot to talk to the American people. But he's going to do much better in states in New Hampshire, where he can go out and talk to a huge proportion of the likely voters, one-on-one, in town halls and other things, where people can get to know him. And that's going to be much more difficult in South Carolina and pretty much impossible on Super Tuesday. So he needs to hit the talk shows and everything hard right now and have them let him speak. Because remember, a lot of these talk shows and other places he's going to need to go on to introduce himself to the American people aren't going to be his biggest fans.
No, they're not.
So, and also his way of speaking is a bit, well, northernly. He's not a smooth talker.
Yes.
So it goes over well in, parts of the Midwest and the Northeast. I'm not sure how well it'll go over elsewhere, but if the other candidates keep on screwing up, then yeah, he's got a shot in there to be the really, really dark horse mainstream Republican candidate.
Yep.
But then it'll be an almost pure battle of his, I'm talking common sense, versus Donald Trump's raw charisma and jibber jabber.
And it might come down to that. Like, we at least disagree with how much this hit it hurt Rubio. I think it's hurt him a lot. But There's also the point that Bush's campaign has not been run well, and I don't think voters are going to suddenly say, yeah, I'm going to finally back Bush, especially with things like how he's wasted all of his campaign money.
Oh, I don't think they care about that. All that matters is who gives him money now. But his problem is he's been defined as low energy, and he hasn't really been able to break out of being defined as low energy because he is sort of low energy. And also, he's a Bush, and the Republican voters and the middle of the road voters aren't really interested in voting for a Bush again.
That, and also his campaign management has quite frankly stunk, and he doesn't seem to be doing the kind of shakeup he's needed in order to start winning. His ads suck. His talking points suck. His attempts at attacking Trump suck.
Oh, he showed some liveliness in some of the debates and going after Trump. It was better than before.
Yes, it was better than before, but this is not the campaign that you'd expect to be created by $1 million marketing strategists.
Well, the thing is, none of the mainstream candidates have, in fact, really none of the Republican candidates have grabbed an issue, a defining issue, which defines them in the field that they want to implement and do.
Except for Trump.
Okay, if you count making Mexico build us a wall.
That is an issue. Trump has grabbed it. He held on to it no matter how toxic it is. And it
Yes.
has served him surprisingly well.
Yes, as we will stop all Muslims from coming into the country, and we'll have Mexico build us a wall.
It's an issue. He grabbed onto it. And he's held on to it, and he's been quite dedicated to it, despite it being basically radioactive plutonium.
Yes, he has got himself some defining issues, but really Trump's defining characteristic is that he is Trump.
Either way.
But none of the others have anything which is really a defining issue. Nothing which they've set out and made obvious, nothing that they could both defend and be attacked on.
No,
they've all come out with some sort of tax reform policy, which if the others weren't doing a tax reform policy would be a bigger thing, but since they're all doing a tax reform policy and sort of just generically talking about it, it's not a big thing.
Except for Trump, who released his entire genius plan.
Oh, they've all released a genius plan.
But Trump has given real details on it.
Admittedly, Trump has actually given more details than most of them have on it, but they all have a genius tax reform plan, which if you go to their website, you can see the details of.
But also, back on the point of marketing, no, Jeb's campaign has been pretty bad. Even with things, how he's defined it with Jeb exclamation point.
I don't see anything particularly wrong with that. It's not particularly brilliant, but Jeb.
Not particularly brilliant.
Effectively, Colbert has made a perpetual joke out of it, but
Colbert has made a perpetual joke to it. Also, everyone knows in the Republican field that he is Jeb Bush. Hiding the fact that he is a Bush.
Oh, this isn't hiding the fact. It's maybe de-emphasizing it.
Well,
but his name, he is called Jeb. People do call him Jeb.
Yes, it's still not a good idea. The look of it was not a good idea. Most of his campaign up to this point has not been competently run.
I don't know. I just think it's not been his time. He attempted to blanket the airwaves with generic messages, just introducing himself and making people know who he was. But yes, he's effectively seen as the incredibly bland, generic Republican candidate who's another Bush from a line of Bushes, who's just like pretty much any other Bush and or Republican
Well,
candidate.
he set a campaign to try and be president so he wouldn't attach himself to anything in the primaries and have his coronation, right? However, then Trump and other people got into the field, and he didn't really switch gears.
Well, he didn't think he needed to. I mean, and most people also didn't think he needed to. It was Trump, after all.
But even at this point, his campaign does not look like it's switching gears. Like, really, after all this money spent, after everything, after he's become known as 3% Jeb, he needed to switch gears, but he seems to be living in a la-la land.
Switch gears to what?
Something that isn't this incredibly bland.
But that's him. That's who he is. That was how he planned to win the presidential election.
And that is not how he's going to win it now.
Probably not, but he's sort of come back a bit in New Hampshire, and if Rubio implodes like you think he has, then he'll become the default candidate all over again.
If people that have been supporting Rubio will actually support Bush. Admittedly, they're basically the same candidate in some respects.
There isn't a lot of positional difference between them, but they're not the same candidate.
No, I think Rubio is going to implode a bit, but I also don't think he's going to drop out. Not now. He's going to also stick it in. And Bush should drop out, but I think his own ego won't allow him to drop. After all, he's got in a tiny bit of hope.
Yeah, the fact is he's pretty much leading the pack, at least very temporarily, out of New Hampshire of the mainstream candidates. No, Bush is definitely going to stick in unless there's really been a some sort of disaster in his campaign financing. He's definitely going to be there for South Carolina and probably into Super Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think, if I had to say one thing, it's not the mainstream candidates. Rubio, Bush, and Christie, I don't think they're going to win this one. I think it's going to be either Trump, Kasich, or Cruz. And I really don't want Cruz. This is the year of the dark horse candidates for the Republicans, and I think one of those three probably have the best chance.
Well, much as I think he'd be a good president, I don't think Kasich has much of a chance. Cruz actually has a chance. He's effectively loathed by the Republican establishment, can't seem to get along with anybody for very long, but he is effectively the sort of mainstream right-wing Republican candidate.
Yes, but look, the thing that I think people have been missing is the Republican base and Republicans in general have come to really hate the establishment. Even the moderates seem to hate the establishment. That's just why I think Kasich has a good chance of siphoning a bunch of votes from the normal mainstream candidates, because he is talking sense, and it's a sort of sense the establishment doesn't really like either.
Actually, I don't think the establishment has any problem with that whatsoever. They just don't think he can win.
Hmm. But either way, I say, so long as he's seen as not the establishment candidate, if he gets attention, I think he'll pick up a surprising amount of votes and support.
Well, we'll see. If he does well in South Carolina, and by that I don't mean winning it, because it's a horrible state for
No,
them.
but if he comes like third, he'll
Yeah,
have
no, if he
something.
manages a third place finish,
Hmm.
then that'll indicate that there actually is a groundswell for uncharismatic competence.
Yes.
But I just have to say that's pretty much almost never happened in politics, short of a few elections which occurred after communism fell.
Yeah, you know what? Trump's presidency so far hasn't happened in the history of politics, at least since the time of Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, there's been a few examples, if you look at worldwide politics, of the charismatic outsider, the comedian, the musician, the television show personality coming in and winning elections. In fact, in some ways, although not a direct corollary, Ronald Reagan was that figure.
Fair enough.
Although in some ways, Ronald Reagan was more the Cruz figure who seemed way too conservative and scared the Orthodox Republicans and then managed to win the primaries anyway.
Hmm.
Although I don't really think Cruz is a Reagan. But then again, we may find out.
Cruz is not a Reagan. Cruz is Lucifer. He is Lucifer given life.
Well, I
I
just have
think
to say, yes, right now it seems wide open to me on the Republican side. And I think we've, yes, beat this to death. So is there anything else in politics you want to discuss?
well, there's international politics, but I think going into that now would deserve a different video.
A whole nother show? Well, probably we'll leave that for, yes, another time then.
Yes.
All right, that has been our New Hampshire U.S. politics debate show.
Mm-hmm. Bye,
And
guys.
we'll see who is right and what is happening in not that long.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to everyone later.
All right.